I know you don't, but there are people that realize there are other things to life than fantasy football, but that's why I love you so. Jeff Ratcliffe from Pro Football Focus. Jeff, what's going on?
There are indeed other things in life. Gambling, for example.
For example. And we'll talk a lot of prop bets tonight and how they fit in. John Hansen, the guru. John?
I was Captain Buzzkill last night. I'll be the first to admit. I did not love the landing spots for some of the assets here, but tonight is the night, baby. Nothing but positivity. We're going to see a lot of skill players flying off the board this evening.
I think we're absolutely going to see that. Howard Bender from the Fantasy Alarm. Could be wide receiver night on night number 2, Howard.
I'm really hoping it's wide receiver tonight, but I don't want to give away my wish of the night, so I will just say I'm looking forward to the fantasy angle this evening.
Howard is so protecting this. We're going to go down our fantasy hope for the evening from round 2 and 3 because he got snaked by Torrey Holt last night at the last second.
Dude, it was in my head, man.
We sent him home, Howard. We sent him home, okay?
Honestly, every time I want to say something, Torrey Holt is just like, boom, on it.
Hey, you know what? That's why we have Torrey Holt on as a fantasy and draft analyst, and Alex Dunlap from Roster Watch. Alex, running backs maybe second only to wide receivers tonight. Certainly from a fantasy perspective, we should see a bunch of these guys come off the board.
We're going to see a lot of contributors for the fantasy football ethos in our space coming off the board here in rounds 2 and rounds 3, and it's going to be more important than what happens in day 3 because we know that the draft capital associated is going to have a lot to do with their opportunity.
Byron Lambert, your cohort at Roster Watch, will be joining us throughout the broadcast as well tonight. We've got a lot going on social media. We invite you to watch video of our draft coverage. Howard's going to lead that for most of the night on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at SiriusXM Fantasy. The show will continue. Basically, if you're following the Instagram feed at SiriusXM Fantasy, you'll see how the sausage is made in between radio segments. It ain't pretty, but if you want to see it, you just need to tune in just for the look Howard's got on his face right now.
Right. This is a big sausage party, let's be honest here.
Total sausage fest happening at this table right now.
And a big shout out to Anthony Sherman, right? The sausage himself.
Yeah, and well, look, it is what it is. We're at where we're at. Howard, I'm going to let you lead off tonight. No one is snaking your fantasy hope for the evening because you get the first crack at it. Everybody's going to weigh in. What's the one thing you'd like to see happen tonight that would make us excited for fantasy football?
Well, I actually pivoted off of my original one because I figured I was going to get snaked at some point. So I'm just going to say this. With their second pick or their first pick of the draft here, I hope the Dallas Cowboys go safety as opposed to going wide receiver so that my co-host Jim Bowden does not have a Hakeem Butler or a DK Metcalf or an A.J. Brown or anybody like that to root for all season long.
All right, so Howard went a little bit with the selfish angle. I don't know if anybody else was going to make a prediction that would have kind of blocked Jim Bowden, but Howard making sure that nobody was going to get in before him on that one. It's an interesting one. Alex, for you tonight, what's the thing you want to most see happen?
With the 12th pick here in this round, we have the Green Bay Packers selecting, and with this, we're going to talk a lot about the wide receivers in this class. There are a lot of big ones. There are a lot of great slot players, and a lot of these guys can play the big slot. I think that there's a little bit of a vacuum there and a great fantasy landing spot. So many of these great wide receivers still left on the board, and one of them going to Green Bay. Boy, what a boon that would be.
All right, a wide receiver to the Green Bay Packers. Guru, what you got?
A lot of running back action tonight, a lot of wide receiver action, but we all have bemoaned the fact that the tight end position has been craptastic here for fantasy football for like a decade plus. And I sat down with Jay Sternberger at the Combine. Great kid, amazing dude. He's into fantasy, led the way with 48 grabs, 17 yards a catch, 10 touchdowns for Texas A&M. So I want the Raiders to take him with the third pick of this round and put him in a fantasy-friendly spot.
Wow, third pick of this round. That would be a bold selection by Oakland for Jay Sternberger. But nonetheless, that's your fantasy wish for the night. Jeff Ratcliffe, what do you say?
I think I'm going to go very specific here. I think there's an opportunity in Kansas City for reasons that are pretty obvious right now. And a guy who I would love to see land there would be Andy Isabella. With his speed, with his versatility, yes, he's more of a slot receiver, but he can play outside. That would mesh really well with Patrick Mahomes.
Does any other landing spot potentially right now, be it wide receiver or even potentially running back with what's left out there, right? Look, I'm a Damian Williams believer, but certainly if they spend a reasonably high pick. Now, keep in mind, they spent some of those high picks on acquiring Frank Clark, so they don't have as many picks to play with. But is there, guys, collectively a better landing spot than Kansas City right now, Bob, to vault someone's perceived fantasy value in 2019?
Yeah, and I think I'd like for any of these guys that we're talking about, any of these receivers, that I'd go with A.J. Brown or Deebo Samuel in particular, landing in San Francisco, where I think they have opportunities there for a receiver to step immediately into the mix.
All right, so that's your wish
Yes.
tonight. But back to the original point about Kansas City, knowing what we've saw in Patrick Mahomes, 50 touchdown quarterback, they may be without Tyreek Hill forever, for all we know. Sammy Watkins has never proven to be able to stay healthy for long stretches of time. Is that just fantasy goal? Whoever that guy is, what his stock would have been, does it rise the most with that destination?
I think it rises considerably, yes. That and San Francisco are the two spots I want.
And the Chiefs have 2 picks in the second round that they're at the bottom of the round. So I think a guy may fall yet benefit from going to KC. How about Hakeem Butler potentially falling? He can run. You can make a lot of big plays with Patty Mahomes. I do like Jeff's point about Andy Isabella. So one of those two dudes, maybe Metcalf, I doubt it, but somebody, A.J. Brown, somebody like a huge opportunity in Kansas City right now.
I'm an A.J. Brown to Indianapolis guy with the second pick tonight. That would be kind of my one right there. And I play in a lot of Dynasty. And right now, you're looking coming out of last night, your presumptive number one in rookie drafts has to be Josh Jacobs. Maybe, look, we've got a small pool of guys, so it's tough to know where any of these guys are going to go. It's going to change rapidly tonight, but maybe N'Keal Harry, being in New England, holds on over those tight ends. But I think certain guys, certain landing spots can really shake up rookie drafts at the very top, and that's my preferred format.
I like you mentioned the Colts, 3 second-round picks, 2 fourth-round picks, a third, a fifth, a sixth, and a seventh. They have tons of draft capital tonight, so we'll all be watching that destination.
I would say in a dynasty environment, since this draft does not have true studs at the top, other than maybe Hawkinson and Kyler Murray, it's a little bit more about your own team's needs, I would think, this year, if you're looking at rookie drafts.
Oh, to some degree, but
more than usual.
Look, this year it's always good to get wide receivers in rookie drafts, right? We know that because they have the long-term value, and you get one in Kansas City, you get one in San Fran, you get one in Indianapolis. We've already gotten one in New England. These are pretty cushy fantasy landing spots, and I just like to have the overall pool of talent stretch a little bit deeper. It was seen this is like a thin year. Is there really a number one? Well, now I think we've got that with Josh Jacobs, and you hear Gruden talking about him being utilized as a feature back, but we'll see how it plays out in that regard. All right, let's go through some interesting prop bets that we've dug up before the round kicks off tonight, and the Cardinals are on the clock. They've got about 4 minutes to turn the selection in. We will be going to the podium to hear the picks. It won't be Roger Goodell making the announcements. Various persons will be making them for the different franchises, but let's see. DK Metcalf, his draft position, over under the 40th and 40.5. Basically, will he go by time pick 40 comes up, or will he still be on the board? Who wants to take a stab at that one? Who feels strongly about that?
That'll be Buffalo, and I think that's probably why they put it there. They could definitely use some wide receiver help. I think it's probably a good spot because we see some of these other ones. San Francisco, I could see him going to San Francisco because maybe Shanahan could see him as a possible Julio Jones at the highest upside, whereas some of these guys like A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel are a little bit more redundant with a guy like Dante Pettis.
Who's going to be the guy that hangs out in the green room the longest? 5 guys left over from day one. Now, we don't know if they'll all be in the green room, but are the original green room crew. It sounds like an old hip-hop crew, doesn't it, Howard? Right? The original green room crew. DK Metcalf, Drew Lock, Greedy Williams, Cody Ford, and Jawan Taylor. Who is most likely to go the longest without his name being called?
I'll say Cody's probably going to be the guy who's sitting there last. I mean, Jawan Taylor really surprised me that he dropped out of the first round. I feel like he's a guy who Arizona, if they don't go wide receiver, I feel like they could actually utilize Jawan Taylor as I think they're going to get Kyler Murray either another weapon or protection. So it's going to be one or the other for there. And then I think guys like Greedy Williams is definitely somebody who people are coveting. And the wide receivers, we've gone through enough teams like that.
All right, let's head to the podium for the Cardinals selection tonight. No, we're not going to. I'm sorry. I thought we were headed up there right now. The Cardinals pick is in, and it's Byron Murphy, the cornerback out of Washington, just been announced. In fact, Alex and I
completely wrong.
We're talking about him. Might be the first guy off the board tonight. Look, cornerback, the first one going with the 30th pick is something almost unheard of in the modern NFL. So we're going to see a run on that position as well. It's not a fantasy relevant position for most leagues, but we are going to see an absolute run on cornerbacks come off the board tonight. All right. Quarter after the hour here, just getting started. The Colts are on the clock, and things will fly very rapidly as there are only 5 minutes between selections. We'll get as many in live from the podium as we can tonight. I'm Mike Dempsey of Football Diehards, along with Bob Harris of that very same show, Jeff Ratcliffe from Pro Football Focus. We got the Fantasy Alarm's Howard Bender here with us. Alex Dunlap and later on Byron Lambert from Roster Watch will join us as well. John Hansen, the guru from Sirius XM Fantasy Football. And continue watching. The show doesn't end. It continues live on Instagram on the breaks. You can watch video of our draft coverage led by Howard Bender on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at SiriusXM Fantasy. And don't forget to check out the latest story on our Instagram page as well for behind-the-scenes footage. It's a SiriusXM Fantasy Football NFL Draft Special on Fantasy Sports Radio. There might be a cornerback run, and there's a little mini run as Rock Yassin out of Temple is the second pick of night number 2, round number 2. The Indianapolis Colts selecting him after Byron Murphy, the corner out of Washington, went to the Arizona Cardinals. We've got our first trade of the night. Don't know the details other than the Jaguars have moved up from 38 now, and they are on the clock with the Oakland Raiders. This, to me, is offensive line all the way. If they feel that Jawan Taylor just fell because he wasn't as beloved by NFL evaluators, and then it wasn't an injury issue, that's the move to me for Taylor. Other than that, I think Cody Ford's in play here. I think it is one of the offensive tackles, though. I'd be shocked if they made a move for a tight end at this point in time. Those are the two biggest outstanding needs at the moment for that team.
Look, that would give them essentially two number one type pick caliber-wise.
Two potential top 10 picks, really, at least the way guys are talked about heading into the draft.
Plus, you got Cam Robinson, a number one pick at the left side. Andrew Norwell, we all know what they want to do. Nick Foles, not exactly a mobile quarterback. That would be great for fantasy. Help out the Jacks.
Yeah, big time. I mean, look, Leonard Fournette, Bob, this year, health, right? He's got to stay healthy.
He's got to stay healthy. We've heard again, the same thing we'd heard the year before, where he's working to drop some weight going into the season. I don't know how NFL players add weight during the season. He did. You get hurt, I guess, would be part of it.
Right.
But, at some point, let's hope he takes this seriously. This seems to be more of a maturity issue for him. The Jags don't seem to doubt his talent. They seem to be sold on it because they're not giving up on him. But he's got to make good on that with some of the off the field, doing all the little things that keep you on the field.
Even the little arrest he had for a suspended license, driving on a suspended license. It's not a big deal in and of itself.
No, but in
it's
the big
just
picture,
an attention to detail issue, I think. And we'll see, because the opportunity is going to be there. They want to force feed him the ball in Jacksonville. He is the fantasy commodity right now in Jacksonville. There's really nobody else you want to hang your hat on. D.D. Westbrook as a kind of mid-round flyer. We're going to head to the podium here in a minute and find out exactly who the Jaguars made the first move of day 2 to go up and get, trading with the Oakland Raiders. So let's listen in as we head to the podium tonight. Duval!
We have a trade. The Oakland Raiders have traded their 35th pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. With the 35th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Jawan Taylor, tackle, University of Florida.
There you have it. I mean, look,
Dempsey, your job just got a lot easier down there in Jacksonville, man.
I'll tell you this. I work, for folks who don't know, I'm part of the game day broadcast down there and have been for the last 5 seasons.
What a haul.
And I tell you, if things had fallen differently, if the Giants take Josh Allen, if the Raiders did and the Giants went with Jonah Williams, the Jags could have been making this pick last night at number 7. And nobody would have been the wiser about any speculation. I think that's what it turned out to be about the knee issue, Jeff. We talked about it earlier today. Some national reporters who were asked about it and just basically said, oh, yeah, bad knee. Well, wait a minute. Why are you mentioning bad knee for the first time? In all this process over months, it's like guys got caught flat-footed. They didn't understand. I think what happens, Jeff, you get media and pundits that overvalue players compared to what NFL opinion makers, scouts feel. And this is just a simple case of good player, not a great player. And he got pushed up the board because it was a weak tackle class in people's minds.
I agree with that. But in the same right, this does address an issue. This is a guy who last year graded out 3rd highest in run blocking among Power 5 offensive tackles. So we're talking about Fournette, and we've seen this is a guy historically from an efficiency standpoint has struggled. Run blocking is going to help that, so this is good for Fournette.
Pretty amazing haul here, Mike, as you know. Did you have any thought that you could do this well, the first 2 picks? You got Josh Allen and you got Jawan Taylor. That's pretty crazy.
No, there was no – I mean, look, there was a thought that Josh Allen could fall to 7. That had been discussed. We'd talked about that. But that was maybe, a 20 to 25% chance at the high end. So for even that to happen was kind of a win. If they had come out of tonight with Cody Ford or Dalton Reisner, if they had sat where they were at 38, I would have been fine with that as well. To get a guy, Howard, that is looked at as one of the best run blocking tackles in the draft. How much of a bump does this give to Leonard Fournette, if at all, in your opinion?
I think it gives a significant bump to Leonard Fournette, without a doubt. I think that he's going to be able to make that move and that push through the line a lot easier than he has been in the past. And I think that while Leonard Fournette's not the biggest of pass catching backs too, that's going to help him in the fantasy realm because he can take it up the line like that and follow Jawan Taylor.
He's not Stonehands though, Alex.
No.
He's competent. He's not Le'Veon Bell. He's not going to break you down running routes, but he can catch the simple dump offs.
I mean, I would invite anybody that's a member at our website to go watch his pro day and tell me that he doesn't have good hands. I mean, or watch his combine workout. This is a great signing for the Jaguars. Great for Leonard Fournette. And I'll say, man, he's going in the third round right now of early best ball drafts. It's obscenely low.
Yeah, workload is going to be, I think, a high percentage compared to most backs in the league.
I mean, again, Tom Coughlin is probably sick of it. Are they going to be worried about Leonard Fournette in 2-3 years this year? No. I say they're going to ride him into the ground and give him as many touches as the man can possibly handle.
And find a guy that if something happens to Leonard Fournette like it did last year and they missed him for a bunch of games, they were scrambling to the point where they made a panic move for Carlos Hyde. They're going to draft a running back. Now, what commodities did they give up here, Bob, to move up these few spots?
Yeah, the Jaguars got pick 35, 140, 235. The Raiders get from Jacksonville 38 and 109.
That's not bad. So they moved down from 109 to 140, but they also pick up, it sounds like, a seventh-round pick there to secure what they felt was the best player left on the board. All right, we got San Fran on the clock. The pick is in. What would you like to see him do here, Jeff Radcliffe?
I think the consensus from a lot of us in the fantasy community would be to address wide receiver here.
Do you have a particular wide receiver that you'd like to see in San Fran?
I think if it's a big body wide receiver, that's who makes the most sense because that's the glaring need here. So DK would probably top the list for me. I know that's not the consensus, though.
Or Hakeem Butler would make a lot of sense. It's a little too early, but I know that Debo Shanahan had Debo at the Senior Bowl. It's a little early for Debo, though.
Debo's your guy, Bob.
I love Debo,
Is it too early for Debo here?
I think so. I think it probably is, but I hope not.
I'm saying
I love Debo, too, Bob.
Well, I'm saying we're going to find out here in a minute with San Francisco. The Seahawks then are in the on-deck circle, followed by the Oakland Raiders. So already some shifting sands. No skill guys, but certainly an impact on the Jaguars' running game here. And we know how they want to play football. They want to play a little close to the best. They've got Nick Foles if they need to come back, but they want to pound you with that running game and then get after you with that defense and then continue, be a ball-hawking team, give it right back to Leonard Fournette and let him be a closer in the fourth quarter. So like you talked about, Alex, that third-round best ball ADP right now could be a bargain. We're going to hear the selection of the San Francisco 49ers here in just a second as maybe we will get the first pass catcher. Let's go.
Hello, Nashville. Hey, guys, if you could give me a moment, please. Joining me tonight is DeMarcus Cobb, son of longtime 49er scout and NFL running back Reggie Cobb legend. This past weekend, Reggie passed away from a sudden heart attack. Please join us in a moment of silence in the honor of the late Reggie Cobb. In honor of Reggie Cobb and DeMarcus, I'm going to give him the opportunity to introduce the 49ers' 36th pick of the 2019 NFL Draft.
Thank you, guys. First, I want to thank the NFL for allowing me to do this. I want to thank John, Roger Goodell. They've really went above and beyond for all this. But I know we are here for. So, with the 32nd pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Deebo Samuel, South Carolina.
All right, there you go, Deebo Samuel. Not too early for Deebo, right?
There you go. And I mentioned to Deebo that, he worked with Kyle at the Senior Bowl, and I thought he would be a great fit there, and he was totally in agreement here. And again, I thought Deebo would slip a little bit, but this is a great sign, a great plug-and-play starter here, I think, for fantasy. He's a physical dude. Team him up with Pettis.
All right, we've got another trade already as Seattle moves out, Carolina moves in. We'll talk about that in a second. But before we do, Deebo Samuel was on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio in the lead up to the draft, and he talked about, not being held back.
Freshman coverage is not going to be as big of a challenge. Look at SEC ball, and that's what you get week in and week out. Challenge is just to get in the playbook and really learn all the plays. The 3 days that we had and the amount that they tried to stuff in, it was pretty tough.
All right, that full interview, like all the things we do on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, available in the on-demand section. If you go to the Sirius XM app, you can find that right there. All right, so let's go down the line. A good fit among wide receivers. Maybe not the guy you would have chosen, Alex.
Probably not the guy
think?
that I love. Deebo Samuel. He was by far the most impressive player at any position at the Senior Bowl. He was completely dominant. I'm looking at our cumulative rankings here. The Trash Man has him as the number 2 wide receiver in the whole entire class. My issue is, he's kind of built bigger. He's got a bigger body than you would think. He's got great open field vision, just a terrific spark plug of a player. But is he a little bit redundant with the Dante Pettis's? With the, it seems like maybe Shanahan in San Francisco has a type of receiver that he sort of likes, and he just kind of has a crew of them. Deebo Samuel is going to come in and be an immediate contributor. And one thing, if you get awarded special teams points in your league, that
is absolutely right. Does kickoff and punt returns, and I love playing in those yardage leagues where you get a little bit of a boost, gives you a nice floor each week.
Yeah, I think that Pettis. I think they can complement each other. I think Pettis has a little bit more juice. I asked Kyle Shanahan about Pettis at the Combine. He loves him because he can play anywhere, line up all 3 positions. Deebo is a little bit more physical, former running back, runs like a running back with the ball in his hands. I like it. I like the combination here.
Am I alone on an island on this one? I do not like this fit. There's no targets to go around here. This is the problem. We have running backs catching the ball out of the backfield. We have George Kittle there. I mean, the highest target share that I had for a wide receiver on this team was 19%. That's not going to Deebo. That's not enough right there. I think he sees a 13% share.
All right, Carolina's on the clock right now after trading in to the spot of the Seattle Seahawks, who continue to try to move back, accumulate assets after paying all that money to Russ. They need some cheap labor coming into the Pacific Northwest. John Beeson, the former Panther linebacker, who's an IDP stud, will be making the announcement. We'll hear that now coming up in less than 10 seconds. Again, the Carolina Panthers are on the clock. The pick is in. So let's walk it to the podium and listen to John Beeson and hear what he says.
What's going on, Nashville? Move. How's it going? The Seattle Seahawks have traded the 37th pick to the Carolina Panthers. On behalf of Panther Nation, the team that made my dream come true 13 years ago, it's my honor to introduce, with the 37th pick, Greg Little, tackle, Ole Miss.
There you go, Greg Little, another of those coveted offensive linemen. You're going to see several more come off the board here in round number 2. Cody Ford seems like an incredible value at this point. I don't think anybody would have been surprised if he had been a top 25 pick. Overall, Howard, quick thought on Carolina this year. Is Christian McCaffrey going to be overdrafted, or is he just one of the transcendent players in the game right now?
I feel like he's one of the transcendent players in the game right now. I mean, what he brings to the table is fantastic. What I do like about this move is that everything I've heard is that the Panthers at some point want to attack running back again. In this draft, they're looking at somebody like a David Montgomery, somebody who they can pair up with McCaffrey and send between the tackles. They need that protection on the offensive line, so I don't mind this move.
All right, you're heading upstairs, Howard, and you can check out Howard's coverage at fantasyalarm.com. You're going to be doing stuff. Tell us what you've got cooking over the next 4.5 hours.
Well, I'm going to drag Dunlap over here. We're going to go upstairs. We're going to give our thoughts on a number of these picks, some picks that we want to see coming through. We're going to be live streaming on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and you're going to be able to catch all of the action there as it happens, and we might even haunt you guys from above.
Oh, you know what? It was spooky last night, but I think I'm ready. I got a game plan, and I'm used to it. We're going to tag in with Byron Lambert coming in after the bottom of the hour. So, Howard, great work, and we'll talk to you upstairs in a little bit.
Always a pleasure.
There he goes. Howard Bender of the Fantasy Alarm. Alex Dunlop from Roster Watch will be back in a little bit. By the way, all of those Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at SiriusXM Fantasy, and the show continues on Instagram on all the breaks. We've got another trade. The Raiders are trading out of the spot, so it's going to be that kind of night, ladies and gentlemen. It's the SiriusXM Fantasy Football NFL Draft Special from the Fantasy Football Command Center in Nashville, Tennessee, right here on Fantasy Sports Radio.